Today it's a balmy 40 degrees, give or take a bit. Slight breeze. Quite warm considering the time of year. I'm at Holiday Woodlands Nature Preserve, and today I'm bringing with me two Kodak EasyShare Z-812s. In my world, I love these Z-series cameras from Kodak. They come with a host of great features that appeal to, I think, both the beginner and the advanced enthusiasts, or even professionals, if they don't care about having the fanciest gear. The Kodak E-812 comes with a metal tripod mount, which of course I can't ever say enough about. Comes with a lithium-ion battery pack, SD card slot, 12 times optical zoom with image stabilization. Comes with an electronic viewfinder, decent screen at I think at 230,000 dots, which isn't too bad. And it has some great exposure modes on here. There we go. Manual, aperture priority, shutter priority, program, movie of course, scene, auto, and a couple other things in there I don't bother with. Overall, I think it's a great camera. It's quick to focus, has a great set of features on top as well, including your focus options, your flash options, and your drive options, including your self-timer for tripod shots and whatnot. I'd like to make sure I note that this Z-812 is modified for my purposes. The lens barrel does not in any way extend anywhere past this length. In most of these models, they come stock with the lens barrel stopping about where my left hand is. So the extra 4 inches or so is something I've added to this camera to make it work just for the telephoto end of the zoom length. Over the past couple weeks, I've been visiting River East Nature Preserve, one of my favorite preserves along the Boardman River Trail system. And with me during those excursions, I brought my Fujifilm S5200 on a couple different trips, and my goal with those was to capture the same composition a bit over a week apart to kind of demonstrate how sometimes things stay the same and sometimes they're so dynamic and change so quickly. For those shots, I used the same time of day, about up to the minute, the same composition, same exposure settings, and the same filter setup. And I'll put those images up in a little bit and you can see those, but things were pretty much the same for either shot. My goal for today though is just to walk around the preserve here that I'm at today and just get some great close-up macro shots of water drops on leaves, branches, and maybe get a couple wide-angle shots with my other Z-812, which is set for landscape orientation. Today my goal isn't to focus on landscape images as much as it is to focus on close-up or macro images. With the mist and the rain droplets, I really want to capture that spring mood with the thaw. I like that look of the water droplets at the end of twigs of witch hazel or white pine needle. And this camera, with its extended lens barrel system that I have made, is just perfect for that because I can zoom in all the way to the end of the zoom length of this lens. And the lens is still protected from drops of rain. So you know how humans like to just keep things around even though they're not useful anymore to them? Well, this tree is kind of doing the same thing. Last fall, these leaves were, cut off, more or less, not productive for the life of the tree. No more photosynthesis happening for the fall and then to the winter. But yet, bygone it, this tree still wants these leaves, whether it's useful or not. Anyway, this is my first shot. For this shot, I'm going to be shooting in color. Actually, all my images today are going to be in color, I think. So we have low color on there, and then going back to menu. Menu's good, and you can see the barrel distortion, and you can see the circle inside the barrel. This is why this camera is just set up for long zoom. See, it goes to telephoto, and you don't see it anymore. But at the same point, the lens is still very well protected inside the barrel when it comes to adverse conditions like this. Anyway, I'm going to zoom back out. So my exposure parameters are going to be as such. I'm going to keep my aperture open as far as I can, which I think is 3 point something on this camera. And I'm going to go over to my light sensitivity, which is my ISO. And, it's back at the aperture. Kind of touchy system. I'm going to go up to my ISO. think I'm going to put it at about 200. A little bit more than I usually shoot at, but I'm shooting handheld today, so I want to make sure my shots are crisp. Onward and upward to my next spot. Do the handy dandy tuckaroony here. Get that rascal nice and snug. My next composition, I think I'm going to capture an image or two of these little shelf fungus here. These pretty little scamps are just a great example of how death and decay can lead to life when otherwise there may not be any. They're so gorgeous. I love the rings along these. I think these are the ones I'm going to focus on, this cluster right here. I really like the shape and the way it wraps around the old branch here. I think that's just, it's just so amazing how the natural world can be so beautiful and peaceful amidst so much chaos and unrest in the world. That dichotomy between the two, that juxtaposition, is just astounding to me. For this image, I took out my other Z-812 out of the bag, and as you can see, this one has a much shorter lens barrel length. This one is the one I use for landscapes and for close-ups like this, where I'm not zooming into the close-up area. For this composition, my exposure settings are as follows. I'm using macro focusing, aperture priority. My f-stop is at 2.8 to keep as much light coming into the lens as possible. My exposure compensation is 0.3. And my ISO is 200. And in this composition, I'm also going to be utilizing spot metering. Sometimes it's helpful to use something else to stabilize the camera for an image capture, like this branch above this shelf fungus. For my last image today, I think I want to capture another cluster of leaves, this time from a white oak. From where I'm going to capture this image, there's a beautiful layering and some blurring of some additional white oak leaves behind this cluster off in the distance. And when combined into a telephoto exposure, yields really beautiful results. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up, and of course please subscribe to my channel and share these videos with your friends and families, and get outside and get some fresh air. Adios, amigos.